In this lifetime, Gunanchuan said he would stay in the village with his childhood sweetheart. Without a second thought, I packed my bags and returned to the city. He said he didn't want to settle down before establishing his career. I turned and agreed to my parents' arrangement to marry the man they had chosen for me. Later, he said he would marry me if I could find a job for his childhood sweetheart, while heavily pregnant. I accompanied my fiancé to visit the youth staying in the countryside and unexpectedly ran into him. That moment, his eyes welled up with tears again as he choked out the accusation. "But you promised you'd wait for me." "Wait, don't make me laugh. Why on earth should I, a proud red third generation, wait around for someone with no prospects? Mom, Dad, I've decided to return to the city in a week, and I'm willing to marry Brother Fu." There was a distinct pause on the other end of the line. Then came an exclamation of pleasant surprise. "Abao, is it true? Have you really come to your senses and stopped messing around with that penniless boy Gunanchuan? You're really willing to come back to the city, to your parents, and get to know Fu Ziheng?" I nodded, and she emphasized, "Brother Fu is a good man, there's no need to think it over anymore. I'm willing to marry him." My previous life, when Gunanchuan and his childhood sweetheart framed me to death. It was Fu Ziheng who comforted my parents. He was also the one who recovered my body and cleared my name. He even supported my parents for the rest of their lives, a debt of gratitude so profound, I could never repay it even by bearing his children. On top of that, we also share a bond that goes back to our childhood. I'm marrying him of my own free will. Good, that's good, I'll buy your ticket right away. Inform the Fu family immediately, and start making arrangements for your wedding." In my mother's voice, there was an unmistakable sob she couldn't hide. My father's sighs of emotion kept reaching my ears, one after another. I know, they'd been so worried about me, worried I'd love and not be loved in return, worried I'd get hurt by Gunanchuan, worried I couldn't handle the hardships of country life. It's my fault, in my past life. I can't believe I neglected my loving parents for the sake of a man. Mom, Dad, from now on, I'll listen to you, stay by your side, and be a filial daughter. In this life, I will find happiness, I will. I've made it clear to Songyi, if she can't get you transferred to the city, I won't go back with her. She's probably working on getting you a spot right now. I had just returned to the faculty dormitory from the phone booth. Then I heard Gunanchuan's tender, affectionate words for Li Panner inside the dorm. "Brother Nanchuan, I'm so sorry to put you through this. Sister Yi will probably fight with you over this again. And you two just made up." Li Panner's eyes were slightly red, looking utterly pitiful. Gunanchuan shook his head, offering reassurance. "Your parents passed away early, and we grew up together. I've long considered you my own sister. It's only right for a brother to do these things for his sister. Yi should be more understanding." Upon hearing the word sister, a flicker of despondency inevitably passed through Li Panner's eyes, but soon, her charming, lively expression returned. "If all goes well, we should be heading to the city with the educated youth in a week. I ought to let my students and fellow teachers know in the next few days. Well, Yi's parents have a lot of influence. If she asks, getting transferred back to the city shouldn't be a problem. We've been here for 3 years and have received so much kindness from everyone, we really ought to give them a proper explanation. Otherwise it would seem rather cold-hearted of us." Li Panner then came up with an idea. She thought she could use her birthday in a couple of days as an occasion to host a small dinner, inviting the teachers and supervisors from the office. As a way of making that explanation, Gunanchuan was very supportive. "It's just that I'm a bit short on cash at the moment. Brother Nanchuan, could you lend me a little?" Before Gunanchuan could say a word, Li Panner knocked on her own head again. "Oh dear, I completely forgot. Brother Nanchuan already gave me last month's salary to help students from struggling families. This is so embarrassing." Gunanchuan thought for a moment and said, "No problem, Yi probably has some left, I'll get a bit from her for you." Li Panner smiled knowingly. "Okay, thank you, Brother Nanchuan. Sorry to trouble you and Sister Yi again." Gunanchuan patted Li Panner's head, his eyes full of affection. I, however, chose a rather awkward moment to enter the women's staff dormitory. "Yi, you're back," Li Panner greeted me, but I ignored her. Gunanchuan frowned, but instead of scolding me for being rude like he usually did, he extended his hand toward me and said, "Yi, Panner wants to throw a birthday party in a couple of days, and also say goodbye to the school administrators and teachers. We're short on funds. Do you have any to spare?" I continued packing my luggage, my voice icy. "No." Gunanchuan gave a wry smile. "How can you be broke? Didn't you just get paid?" I looked up, shooting him a glance. "Spent it, just like you too. I spent it however I wanted. Gu Nanchuan pressed his lips into a thin line. Li Panner, standing nearby, rolled her eyes thoughtfully before sidling up to me and linking her arm with mine. In an ingratiating tone, she said, Sister E, since the three of us are heading back to the city soon, we thought we'd use my birthday as an excuse to throw a farewell dinner. It's a way to say a proper goodbye to the colleagues we've worked with for 3 years. Nanchuan and I already gave our paychecks to a few of our needy students, so, we're afraid we have to trouble you for this. That's quite interesting. What do you mean, using Li Panner's birthday as an excuse to throw a farewell party? A farewell party is a farewell party. Why does it have to be tied to her birthday? If you don't have the money, don't go around sponsoring students in need. Broke but still wants to play the big shot and treat everyone to a meal, I replied coolly. It's really no trouble. Seeing me relent, Li Panner's face lit up with visible joy. If Sister E says so, then the matter of returning to the city must be settled. Gu Nanchuan let out a long sigh of relief. Then I'll go book a private room at Joe's restaurant later, this afternoon at the office. I'll inform the boss and our colleagues, with the 3 of us included. There should be about 20 people, $30 ought to cover it. Gu Nanchuan looked directly at me as he said this, as if questioning whether I could even come up with $30. Seeing my lack of reaction, Li Panner added, there are a lot of male colleagues in the group of 20. We'll inevitably end up drinking and all that. 30 might be a bit tight. Sister E, with 60, everyone could probably eat a bit better. I just went along with it and nodded. Her smile grew even more brazen. Gu Nanchuan thought it was inappropriate, but he didn't say anything. I added, since it's a birthday, it would be nice to have a cake, don't you think? Gu Nanchuan immediately vetoed the idea. Cakes are too expensive, let's forget it. Besides, you can't even get a cake out here in the countryside. Li Panner's eyes lit up with excitement. Oh, come on. Brother Nanchuan, I've never had a cake in my whole life. If Sister E says she can get me one, she must have a way. I really want to try it. Gu Nanchuan looked at me with a troubled expression once more. I replied calmly, of course there's a way. I have the number for the baker in town. If I give him a call, he should be able to deliver it to us. Li Panner was absolutely thrilled, practically dancing on the spot with excitement, seeing how delighted she was. Gu Nanchuan didn't give a second thought to how much the cake cost, or the delivery fee from town to the countryside. Finally, just as Gu Nanchuan was about to leave the women's staff dormitory, he said to me with particular gentleness, E, it feels like you've grown up so much overnight. I'm really touched by how you've treated Panner. I'll talk to my mom later and arrange for our families to meet as soon as possible. I shook my head. That won't be necessary. He spoke with earnest sincerity. Even though my mother doesn't think much of you, I still hope you can change her opinion. I'll be right there with you, working on it together. I scoffed, still baffled. What on earth gives Gu Nanchuan's mother, disabled, gravely ill, and illiterate, the right to look down on me? Later, you should talk to your parents too. Try to be a bit more humble in front of my mom. That way, both families can sit down together and properly discuss our wedding plans. My parents are upstanding, lifelong revolutionaries who've never bowed their heads to anyone in their entire lives. Why on earth should they have to lower themselves before Gu Nanchuan's mother? I arrived at the office in the afternoon. Gu Nanchuan had already announced the party in 2 days to everyone in the office. Everyone's faces lit up with joy. Li Panner also urged me to use the school's public phone booth to call the cake shop in town. I didn't let her down. I contacted the baker during the break. Get the largest size, enough for 20 people, go all out with the frosting, the fancier, the better, include candles and plates, write happy 23rd birthday, Li Panner on it, also, add one of those little music boxes that plays the birthday song, deliver it to the Zhouji state-run restaurant on Sangji Street, Honghu Town, at 6:30 p.m., just tell the front desk staff, and someone will come out to get the cake. Li Panner stood by, listening to my long list of requests for the baker, her eyes shining with excitement. The call ended. Li Panner took my hand, her eyes rimmed red. E, you're just the best. This birthday party is going to be absolutely perfect. I didn't say a word. I let her have her moment of gratitude. E, after you and Nanchuan get married, could you introduce me to someone nice too? That Mr. Fu who was at your place last time. Is he seeing anyone? I heard his family has a long military tradition. If there's a chance, I'd love to be able to see you every day. A faint smile touched my lips. I don't know where she gets the nerve. Just then, the class bell rang. Li Panner and I each went to our own classrooms. 2 days later, it was Li Panner's birthday. Despite it being midterms for her students, she asked her supervisor for time off. She made a special trip to the county town to buy a new dress, get her hair done, and put on makeup. It was 6:30, as our group walked out of the school. We saw her standing at the restaurant entrance, waiting to greet us. Upon seeing our leader, we warmly greeted her. "You look absolutely lovely today. Happy birthday." A few thoughtful female colleagues had also prepared small gifts for Lee Panner. Lee Panner took the gift, beaming from ear to ear. The group filed in, a boisterous and sizable crowd. Gu Nanchuan, acting every bit the host, summoned the waiter to begin serving the dishes. Platter after platter of chicken, duck, fish, and meat. Bowls of piping hot, fresh soup. Everyone was thoroughly enjoying the meal. Lee Panner and Gu Nanchuan were running the show, while the others chimed in to keep the atmosphere lively. While celebrating Lee Panner's birthday, they also announced to everyone that they would soon be leaving school. A small, private box. The place was buzzing with conversation. Sitting there, I focused on filling my stomach, waiting for the show to begin. Mr. Zhao, seated beside me, felt indignant on my behalf. "You've had so many fights with Gu Nanchuan, yet he's still so close to Lee Panner. Have you just given in? Are you planning to spend the rest of your life in this three-way arrangement?" I shook my head. Teacher Zhao didn't believe it. "This meal must cost at least 100 yuan. Lee Panner dresses so flashily every day, spending her entire salary on clothes. She definitely can't afford this. Gu Nanchuan has a seriously ill mother at home. Even if he helps Lee Panner out, 100 yuan would be tough for him to spare. So, after thinking it over, it must be you. How can you just put up with this?" Teacher Zhao was a bit older than me. She got divorced years ago after her husband had an affair. She always had a clear-eyed view of matters between men and women. She probably told me all this because she didn't want me to get bogged down in the same mess she did. I laughed. "Don't worry, I'm not that naive." Teacher Zhao raised an eyebrow. "You're not as foolish as I thought. Getting Gu Nanchuan back to the city was hard enough, and now you're dragging Lee Panner along too. Who knows if your parents had to go kowtow to the relevant authorities for you." I whispered. "That won't happen. I'm not that unfilial. Lee Panner can't go to the city, and of course, Gu Nanchuan can't either." Teacher Zhao was taken aback, and just at that moment, the waiter pushed the door open and entered. "Who ordered the cake from the city?" "The baker is waiting outside." Lee Panner's face lit up with excitement. That's me, she exclaimed. "I'll go get the cake right now so we can all share it." Cake was a rare and special treat. Hardly anyone sitting there had ever tasted it before, so at the mention of cake, everyone's eyes began to sparkle. "Oh my goodness, I'm in for a real treat. I can't believe I actually get to have cake. I've never seen a real cake in my life. What a blessing. I'll save some of mine to take a piece home for my little one. She's always pestering me for some." The server, who had never seen a cake either, chimed in to hype it up. "This cake is enormous. There's no way you'll finish it all. In fact, there'll be plenty left for each of you to take a piece home." What a huge cake. That must have cost a fortune. Panner's birthday celebration is really something special. Lee Panner left the private room, beaming with joy. Gu Nanchuan followed, saying, "That cake looks too big for Panner to handle alone. Let me give her a hand." The protagonist left. The atmosphere in the private room eased up. Teacher Zhao glanced at me, a look of lingering interest in his eyes. A moment later, Gu Nanchuan came back, walked over to me, and said quietly, "Could you step outside for a moment? The cake decorator says the person who placed the order needs to sign." I stayed firmly in my seat. "Didn't Lee Panner order the cake? She can sign for it." Gu Nanchuan's expression darkened. "But you're the one who called to order it. The decorator is waiting outside. Don't hold things up. Come on out." I let out a soft, disapproving hum. I was the one who made the call, but it was Lee Panner who wanted the cake. "Don't you think it's a bit inappropriate for me to be the one to sign for it?" Gu Nanchuan pressed his lips into a thin, tight line. Lee Panner walked in as well, her face pale and anxious. "Sister E, come on out already. Just sign for it so we can bring the cake in and share it with everyone. It's not often we all get together like this." I remained firmly planted on my stool and replied, "Exactly. You should hurry up and bring the cake in for everyone. They're all waiting and haven't had any cake yet." Miss Zhao was a sharp one. She caught on to what was happening right away. She cut straight to the chase. "Panner, you're not expecting E to go out and pay for you, are you? Usually, you pay for a cake when it's delivered. But isn't this your birthday? Why should E have to foot the bill?" Lee Panner's face fell instantly. "No, Gu Nanchuan explained on Lee Panner's behalf. Song E Didn't you promise Panner you'd give her a birthday cake? Now that the cake is here, you're going back on your word. I feigned surprise. Huh. I promised to give Li Panner a cake. A cake costs at least 200 yuan, and my monthly salary is less than 30. How on earth could I afford such an expensive cake? Teacher Zhao raised an eyebrow. That's rich. So, treating someone to cake means making them pay for it themselves. The expressions on everyone else's faces darkened. The cake delivery driver, who had been waiting outside for ages, finally lost his patience and came in, with a look of annoyance. He said, "Whose cake is this, anyway? Is someone going to step up and pay? It's 231 yuan. I drove 2 hours all the way from the city. Don't make this trip a waste of my time." Li Panner was on the verge of tears. She grabbed my hand and pleaded, "Sister E, we had an agreement. How come you're only telling me now that you don't have any money?" I also wore a helpless expression. "I always thought you had the money. I didn't realize you were expecting me to buy one for you." I quickly started rummaging through my purse. I shook out all the loose change and counted it over and over. I only have 365. I then looked at the others. "How about we all chip in? Let's at least cover the cake first so Panner isn't put on the spot. It's her birthday. She should be able to enjoy it." I didn't even get to finish my sentence. Teacher Zhao's sarcastic remark came out. "Who carries that kind of fortune when they go out? At most, a few yuan. You have 3, I have 3. Even if we all pull together, it's only about 60 yuan. This cake costs over 200. Who can afford to chip in for that? Besides, even if someone had the money, who would spend it on a cake? Buying a refrigerator or a TV would be a much better use of the money." The others also furrowed their brows. "Our monthly salary is only 29 yuan and 90 fen. We can't afford a cake that costs over 200. 3 yuan is enough to feed my family for a whole week. I'd rather not have the cake than contribute to that fund." What kind of behavior is that? Just because Song Yi's family is well off, you think you can casually spend over 200 yuan? How shameless. Li Panner was utterly humiliated by everyone's relentless criticism. She tugged at Gu Nanchuan's sleeve and pleaded. "Brother Nanchuan, yeah." She went back on her word. "What should I do?" Gu Nanchuan then turned all his anger on me. "Song Yi, do you have to embarrass Panner like this? If you didn't want to buy the cake, you should have said so. Now the order is placed, they want payment, and you are going to pay for it." Teacher Zhao looked at Gu Nanchuan. Just said she doesn't have the money. What do you plan to do about it?" Gu Nanchuan glared at me fiercely. "Song Yi, if you don't pay this money, we're through. Don't you ever think about marrying me." I sneered. "Break up? Didn't we already break up? The moment you refused to go back to the city with me, I already considered us finished." Gu Nanchuan was stunned. What? I refused to go back with you." Li Panner snapped back to attention and quickly said, No. Brother Nanchuan said it himself. "If Sister E can arrange for me to go to the city too, then he'll go with you." I spread my hands helplessly. The slots for returning to the city are in high demand. I can't pull this off. Wait, you've been talking about going back all this time, and you were actually counting on me. I thought you'd found another way. Oh dear, what a huge misunderstanding. Looks like this farewell dinner of yours isn't going to be a farewell after all. Gu Nanchuan and Li Panner both seemed to sway slightly on their feet. The others couldn't hold back any longer and immediately broke into a flurry of whispers. So that's why Li Panner and Gu Nanchuan weren't on the next list for returning to the city. I thought they had some serious pull. You've got to be kidding me. They expect Song Yi to pay for the cake, and they expect her to get them a spot to return to the city. These two are total leeches. Hold on a second. Don't tell me they expect Song Yi to pay for this meal too. Teacher Zhao laughed. Inviting someone out but not paying, that's a new one. So that's how you play the game. Then, she turned to the waiter. "Check, please, how much is the meal?" The waiter's face tightened, realizing the gravity of the situation. He quickly called the proprietress over. The proprietress tapped on her calculator, rounded off the total, and said, 59 for the food, 67 for the drinks. That's 126 in total. Who's paying? Teacher Zhao fished in his pocket, handed $3 directly to the proprietress, and said, "I didn't have any drinks. Let's split the bill evenly. Here's my $3. Keep the change." The proprietress turned her gaze to the rest of the group. The few female teachers who hadn't been drinking also hurriedly handed over their 3 yuan. The 3 yuan I had placed on the table was then picked up by Teacher Zhao and given to the proprietress. The proprietress raised her eyelids sharply. "And the rest of you," the group of male teachers, fueled by drink, were so furious their faces turned beet red. They all started cursing and shouting, You have no damn sense when it comes to treating people, so I'm supposed to pay for your birthday myself, you motherless bastard. Landing Songyi was a blessing you didn't deserve, and now you're fooling around with this Lee Penner, you cheap slut. Look at you. Flaunting yourself like a whore. I swear to God, I could kill you right now. I'm not paying a damn cent of this money. Let Lee Penner sell herself to pay the restaurant back. Every vile word reached our ears. We female teachers hurriedly left the private room. Gu Nanchuan couldn't bear the humiliation any longer and simply threw a punch. The scene descended into utter chaos, seizing the moment while the proprietress and the waitstaff were busy breaking up the fight. Lee Penner slipped out of the private room unscathed, but the cake delivery guy was still there. He grabbed Lee Penner, refusing to let her leave, and demanded she pay up. Lee Penner said, "I haven't touched the cake, take it back, I don't have the money to pay you." Furious upon hearing this, the delivery person grabbed some half-eaten food from nearby and hurled it at Lee Penner, shouting, "If you can't afford it, why did you order a cake? Are you insane?" Lee Penner looked at her newly bought dress, now stained, and broke down in tears. She kept crying out, "It's ruined, it's all ruined." There was a disturbance in the restaurant. A patrol officer, hearing the commotion, came in and took everyone down to the station. After some questioning, Gu Nanchuan was required to compensate the restaurant $200 for the damages. Lee Penner and a few male teachers split the bill for the food and drinks, which came to about 100 yuan. As for the cake, even though it was ordered under Lee Penner's name, I was the one who made the call, so I felt responsible for half of it. So, I paid the delivery person over 100 yuan and took half the cake with me. The families of those male teachers came that very night, paid the fine, and took them home. Since no one came to bail out Gu Nanchuan and Lee Penner, they were still locked up writing statements of repentance when we left the police station. Not only is Lee Penner done for, but Gu Nanchuan is going down with her. Exactly, it's all Lee Penner's fault for being so reckless. She even invited several school administrators. Well, she's really bitten off more than she can chew this time. Forget about the few days they'll be locked up over a few $100. Once word gets out, they'll definitely lose their jobs. Ms. Zhao and a few other female teachers were eating cake and venting. After leaving the police station, I invited them to a small tea house nearby to share the cake. Even though there had been some unpleasantness, they were all quite happy because it was their first time eating cake. Now that you've gotten it off your chest, don't you dare look back. Yeah, someone with a temperament like Gu Nanchuan's is no good for a stable life. Go back home and have your parents help you look around. There's bound to be a whole lineup of promising young men waiting for you to choose from. Then it'll be Gu Nanchuan's turn to regret it, losing such a powerful backer like you. I gave a faint smile. Maybe it's a relief for Gu Nanchuan too. He can finally be with Lee Penner openly. Teacher Zhao shook his head. Do you know why Lee Penner is called Lee Penner? I don't know. Teacher Zhao explained. Penner, the Lee family is just pining for a son. Their preference for boys over girls is ingrained to the bone. Even if Gu Nanchuan and Lee Penner have feelings for each other, the Lee parents are unlikely to let their daughter marry a penniless fellow like Gu. They're counting on Lee Penner marrying into a wealthy family so the whole clan can rise up with her. Other teachers chimed in. Don't be fooled by their apparent closeness. These two are more reluctant than anyone to sacrifice their prospects and future. Gu Nanchuan won't commit to Lee Penner, and she looks down on him anyway. Mark my words. Tisk tsk. They'll probably carry on this ambiguous, undefined entanglement for the rest of their lives. Setting aside Gu Nanchuan and Lee Penner, we then chatted about many amusing things that had happened over the past few years. We ordered a pot of tea with some cake, and a wave of reluctance washed over us. After all, I'm leaving soon, and there probably won't be any chance to come back. These past 3 years, apart from that scumbag Gu Nanchuan and that wretched woman Lee Penner, my other colleagues were actually quite nice to me. Especially the women. 3 days later, I boarded the bus back to the city. In my arms, I held the farewell gifts from the women teachers. There was a hand-knitted scarf and some delicious local treats, and of course, the students I had taught for 3 years gave me a box of folded paper stars. I will keep these with me always. They are also a part of my memories. Happiness, sweetness, hardship, and sorrow, all steeped within them. That is youth. As the bus pulled away, I waved goodbye to my colleagues. It was such a touching moment. It would have been perfect if only Gu Nanchuan hadn't shown up out of nowhere. But of course, Gu Nanchuan didn't just show up. He actually chased the bus for several blocks. He was shouting my name, begging the bus to wait. It's not like he owns the bus company. Who does he think he is to just demand we wait? Finally, the vehicle picked up speed, going faster and faster. Gunanchuan could no longer keep up, he roared at the sky. And through the glass and the howling wind, I thought I heard him cry, "Wait for me." But, what am I even waiting for? Probably, I could just wait for him to die. I stepped out of the station. In the distance, I spotted Fu Ziheng standing by the military vehicle. He stood ramrod straight, radiating an aura of integrity. He stood out from the crowd like a crane among chickens. Everyone who passed by, young and old, man and woman, would look up and steal a glance at him. In the past, my heart and mind were completely filled with Gunanchuan, so I naturally overlooked the neighbor's brother who had watched over and protected me since I was a child. In terms of family background, Gunanchuan doesn't measure up. In terms of looks, Gunanchuan doesn't measure up either. When it comes to character, Gunanchuan is even worse. So why on earth was I so blind back then? I let out a self-deprecating laugh. Fu Ziheng had already taken the luggage from my hands. Have you been waiting long? I had the day off planned, but something came up last minute. Please don't be upset with me. I shook my head. Not at all. I saw you as soon as I came out of the station. The timing is perfect. He smiled knowingly, a faint blush coloring his cheeks, revealing a touch of shyness. When your parents told me you were coming back to marry me, I could hardly believe it at first. Even when my parents and I brought the betrothal gifts to your house, my heart was still uneasy. I was afraid you might just be acting on a whim. His expression turned serious as he looked at me. If marrying me is too difficult for you, it's alright. I just want you to be happy. I looked up. I saw the faint glimmer of tears in his eyes. His kindness towards me was always so thorough and considerate. Do you think you can't make me happy? No. Of course not. It's just that you heard I went to the countryside for a man named Gunanchuan, that I refused to return to the city for him, so you think my happiness isn't with you, or maybe you look down on me for having been in a relationship before. No, absolutely not. His expression grew tense, and for a moment, he was at a loss for words. It reminded me of a scene from my past life, after I was framed by Li Panner for adultery and sentenced to the pig cage. He traveled a great distance to testify and plead my innocence. I took a deep breath and wrapped my arms around his solid waist. Brother Fu, if you don't like me, then let's call off the engagement. But if you do have feelings for me, please stop saying things that push me away. Alright. His body went rigid for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice trembled slightly. Yes, I would never push you away. I promise. 1 week later, Fu Ziheng and I got engaged. 3 months later, we got married. Even though the Fu family had already set aside a new home for Ziheng and me, his parents went the extra mile and specially arranged a separate marital home just for us newlyweds to live comfortably. But I still chose to live at my parents' place. After all, Fu Ziheng often has to go away on assignments, so living at home is more comfortable and allows for more time with my parents. The 2 elders of the Fu family are very open-minded and have no objections to this. Besides, we're neighbors. It's so easy to meet up. Fu Ziheng would then roll around on my bed and say, I've had my eye on this bed since we were kids. I used to dream about rolling around on it. Now it's perfect. I've got the girl, and I can lounge on the bed whenever I want. I asked him, have you had impure thoughts about me for a long time? He gave a sly chuckle. I pressed further. How old was I? He pulled me in for a kiss and said, that's hard to say. Don't tell me you had a crush on me even back when I was in elementary school. It wasn't like that. When you were in elementary school, I was only in middle school. Okay, I just thought the little girl next door was really cute and I wanted to protect her. That feeling lasted even as you grew up. I think it was around 10th grade when a girl confessed to me and I turned her down. She asked me what kind of girl I liked. And you were the first person who popped into my head. My cheeks flushed with warmth. I grabbed a cushion and hit him with it. You're in 10th grade, and I'm only in 7th. 7th grade isn't that young. For a while, I was filled with regret that I didn't protect my little treasure better. But luckily, you came back to me. He pulled me into his embrace, his lips close to my ear. In a deep, shared breath, our scents mingled into one. Fu Ziheng was away on a mission for a month, and I found out I was pregnant when he got the news. He wished he could fly a plane straight from the ends of the earth to see me. I told him to focus on his work, that there were plenty of people at home to look after me, and not to worry, but he just cried, acting like a child. I'm sorry, so sorry, I couldn't be there for you during your pregnancy, and I might not be able to be there for the birth either. the thought of you enduring pain and sleepless nights because of this child, and me being unable to help, I'm sorry. From now on, I'll be careful, I'll pay attention, I promise I won't let you suffer. Later on, I heard from the elder Fuss, Jiheng is a man of deep sincerity, he believes that by choosing this profession, he is unworthy of love. It was only after you rejected him that he enlisted. Later, when you changed your mind, he was torn. He knows all too well what this career would demand of a partner, but he couldn't bear to let you go. For a time, he felt he was being terribly selfish. After hearing this, I was profoundly shaken, and the feeling lingered for a long time. Gradually, as I missed my husband, the father of my child, my emotions underwent many complex shifts. I wrote him a letter. Call him whenever you have a moment. I want him to know, while he's working on the front lines, that I stand firmly behind him. I also want him to know that he has taken deep root in my heart, and above all, I want him to know to protect himself and cherish his life. Because I'll be right here waiting for him to come back. 9 months pregnant, my belly was already quite large, but when I heard that Fu Ziheng's camp this time was in Honghu town, less than a 3-hour drive away, I couldn't wait to board the bus to visit him. 3 hours of bumpy roads, amidst the discomfort, there was even greater joy. He stood at the entrance to Honghu town, in the distance, just like a pine tree. The bitter winter wind didn't make him flinch in the slightest. Wait until I get off. His eyes were rimmed with red, and his voice was choked with sobs when he spoke. Are you tired? Did you get carsick? I shook my head, tears suddenly streaming down my face. I was so happy, so why was I crying? He draped his overcoat over my shoulders and quickly ushered me into the military vehicle. We headed for the camp. It was a 10-minute drive. His tears soaked the collar of his shirt. Last time I saw you, your belly was still flat. After just a few months, it's grown so much, my dear. You've been through so much. Seeing him acting like a child, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, yet, the feeling of being cared for and cherished by him was incredibly warm and touching. This afternoon, I need to make a trip to the school in Honghu town. The higher-ups have sent a batch of supplies specifically for the youth working in the countryside here. We've been assigned to escort the delivery. Would you like to come along? Fu Ziheng had heard me go on about my old colleagues and students in Honghu town plenty of times, so of course he knew how much I missed them. He also mentioned that Gu Nanchuan was at the school. He was worried I might feel awkward, so he left the decision to me. I didn't hesitate. Why should I be embarrassed? I'm doing so well now. If anyone should feel awkward, it's him. And so, that afternoon, I followed Fu Ziheng's car to the school. My former colleagues were absolutely stunned when they saw me. It hasn't been that long. And look how big your belly is already. Oh my gosh, I heard you got married right after you left. I didn't believe it at first, but now I have to. That was your husband helping you out of the car, right? He's so handsome. Wow, you've got great taste. Teacher Zhao and the other teachers joked around, worried I might catch a chill outside, and then ushered me into the office. I hesitated for a moment before stepping inside the office. Sensing my concern, Teacher Zhao quickly reassured me. Don't worry, Gu Nanchuan and Li Panner were expelled from the school long ago. They have no place in this office anymore. Then, the conversation turned to those two. After Gu Nanchuan assaulted the school administrator and was released from the police station, he lost his job. He then searched everywhere for work, but no one would hire him. In the end, the principal took pity on him and gave him a job in the school kitchen. He worked there for a whole year, clinging to the hope of becoming a teacher again, which is why he bent over backwards to please the administration. Gu Nanchuan desperately longed for a chance to return to the city, so he saved his wages, hoping to bribe the school officials. The school administrators looked down on his paltry sum, so they egged him on to send Li Panner away, and he actually went along with it. At that time, Li Panner was already in a relationship with a somewhat well-off local young gentleman and was on the verge of getting married. In the end, Li Panner was completely screwed over by Gu Nanchuan. Furious, Li Panner demanded Gu Nanchuan compensate her with money. Gu Nanchuan promised that once he returned to the city and won me back, he would give Li Panner a substantial sum. He even pledged to introduce her to a better match so she could marry into a wealthy family. How foolish Li Panner was. After breaking up with her boyfriend, she openly began currying favor with the school administration, but a whole year went by. Gu Nanchuan still hadn't managed to return to the city. Li Panner was publicly beaten in the street 3 times by the school official's wife. Li Panner knew her reputation was ruined. She demanded Gu Nanchuan marry her, but he wanted nothing to do with her. After all the back and forth drama, she ended up pregnant. and no one knew who the father was. Gu Nanchuan planned to take Li Panner to get an abortion. Li Panner's parents suddenly found out about the situation. They came from their hometown, and the whole group pressured Gu Nanchuan to pay up and marry her. Gu Nanchuan handed over his entire year's wages to Li Panner's parents and even signed an IOU for a betrothal gift worth tens of thousands. Who knows how things are now? I heard Li Panner has taken up that kind of work, while Gu Nanchuan is still toiling away in the school kitchen. They're living together without any formal commitment. It's all quite a mess. Just as they were speaking, Gu Nanchuan, dressed in his janitor's uniform, walked in from outside the door. He was there to get the school administrator's signature to collect his pay. The words had barely left his mouth when he spotted me, surrounded by the crowd. Instantly, his eyes welled up. I pursed my lips and didn't answer him at all. He took a few quick steps forward, and Teacher Zhao shielded me behind him. Gu Nanchuan, what do you think you're doing? Re is a military wife, her husband is an officer. Don't you dare get any ideas. Gu Nanchuan stared at me, dazed. You're married. Following his gaze, she also noticed my rounded, pregnant belly. But you promised you'd wait for me. How could you just leave without me? Tears spilled from his eyes. It was utterly revolting to look at. It was at that very moment, Fu Ziheng finished his business and came to the office. Seeing this, he walked straight over to me. I just got permission from the team to leave. We can go home now. His gentle expression was a welcome sight for sore eyes. I immediately stepped toward him. Yes, okay. He took my hand and politely bid farewell to Teacher Zhao and the others. Wait, I still have something to say to you. Gu Nanchuan called out to stop me. Fu Ziheng frowned slightly, shielding me behind him. What do you need to say to E? The two of them stood side by side. Fu Ziheng stood a full head taller than Gu Nanchuan. The imposing aura of the military uniform left him speechless, unable to find his words. Fu Ziheng gave a slight, knowing smile. If you have nothing more to say to my wife, we'll be on our way. No, 56 Mansion, Camphor Road, Ningzhou. That's where E and I live. You're welcome to visit her anytime if you need anything. With that, he finished. Gu Nanchuan's face darkened. Teacher Zhao and the others also exclaimed in awe. A mansion. Fu Ziheng shielded me as we left the office and got into the car. Wait until the car door closes. I gave him a light slap without thinking. Isn't Villa no? 56 the place your regiment commander assigned. Why are you bragging just to tick him off? He raised an eyebrow, revealing his epaulets. Just got promoted, haven't had a chance to tell you yet. Pretty impressive. Huh, my eyes went wide. Seriously, what did you do? How did you become the regiment commander all of a sudden? A faint smile touched his lips. I was away for 8 months this time, earned a first-class merit. Worry instantly seized me, and my hands began to search over him. Sure enough, my fingers found a hole in his chest. I pulled aside his shirt and saw the twisted, scarred wound. In that moment, I'm burning up all over. What first-class merit? Who asked you to come back a hero? I didn't mean to get the commendation. I was just always ready. And before I knew it, it happened. So, they just assigned us a place at No. 56 Mansion. You can live there if you want, or you don't have to go at all. Hey, honey, don't cry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Ugh. I was too busy showing off in front of my rival. I didn't think about the fallout. Honey, please stop crying. I'm sorry. The baby's still in your belly. I was crying so hard I could barely catch my breath. What if you die? Would I have to become a widow? No. When I was shot, all I could think about was you. The thought of you made me fight to stay alive. He didn't even finish his sentence. Suddenly, I felt a sharp contraction in my stomach. No time for tears. I screamed. Fu Ziheng. To the hospital. Get to the hospital now. I think the baby's coming. Fu Ziheng was jolted into action and immediately called for the driver to head to the hospital. This time, it was Fu Ziheng's turn to cry. The labor lasted 5 hours. Mother and daughter have landed safely. While Fu Ziheng was cuddling and kissing his baby girl, the driver who brought us to the hospital started venting in front of us. The new parents, you have no idea. First, the lady was crying. It made my heart ache. Then it was Commander Fu's turn to cry, and his sobs nearly made my heart leap out of my chest. I was driving on pins and needles the whole way. It was absolutely nerve-wracking, all because of the baby's arrival. Fu Ziheng's leave this time was a bit longer. But with the heavy workload, as a key figure, he was bound to shoulder more responsibility. As a military spouse, naturally, I could only support him. As the children grew day by day, The young people who had been sent down to the countryside gradually made their way back to the city. As soon as Teacher Zhao returned to the city, he sought me out to get together. Occasionally, when our conversation turned to the past, we would mention Gu Nanchuan and Li Pan'er. It was said that the two of them had gone ahead and gotten their marriage license, tying the knot. It's just that life was tough. With constant arguments every day, later, over a matter of just $2, Gu Nanchuan stabbed Li Pan'er to death. The crime was so heinous that Gu was arrested and executed. You're the lucky one, you got married and had kids early, with great in-laws, wonderful parents, and an even better husband and children. Every time we talk about you, we're just green with envy. I teased. It's been a while, Mr. Zhao. Would you like me to set you up on a date? Teacher Zhao waved his hands repeatedly. No, getting married is a matter of chance. I'm not as fortunate as you are. After our conversation, I asked the driver who was always with Fu Ziheng to take Teacher Zhao home. Later on, Teacher Zhao somehow got in touch with that driver, and not long after, they started a new family together, even though Teacher Zhao had always been resistant to the idea of remarrying. But when fate comes knocking, there's just no holding it back. And that's a wonderful thing. Everyone is truly happy. Story 2. When the Gu family was on the brink of bankruptcy, Mr. and Mrs. Gu came to our door, begging for a marriage alliance. My father, pitying me for having loved Gu Xinian for 10 years, injected billions to save the Gu family and married me off to them. On our wedding night, Gu Xinian blindfolded me with red silk and took me, hard, again and again. A month later, I joyfully went to find him with my pregnancy report, only to overhear him betting with his friends in a bar. So, Siyu has been with over a dozen guys. Who do you think the father is? His friends burst into laughter. Come on, young Master Gu, I only did it 3 times. There's no way it's mine, I'm telling you. Ah Zhao was a beast that night. He drove Siyu absolutely wild. I'll bet 100 grand it's his. That's when I realized the man in my bed on my wedding night wasn't Gu Xinian at all, but over a dozen of his so-called brothers. I charged him like a madwoman to confront him. But he was utterly dismissive. What are you crying about? If your family hadn't forced Tingting away by threatening to withdraw their investment, do you think I'd ever have treated you like this? Let me make this clear. I'll let you go when Tingting is ready to forgive me. My heart dead. I asked for a divorce, but he used the video from that night to threaten me, locking me in the basement. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. My buddies and I are still placing bets on who the bastard's father is. 8 months later, I died in childbirth in that basement. A tragic end for both me and the baby. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. Back to the day I returned to the Gu family to beg my father for the investment that would seal the marriage alliance. On my wedding day, Gu Xinian's eyes were red from crying. Yeah. Xinian actually likes you very much too. He would be over the moon if you married into our family. I jolted awake and saw the sincere, earnest expressions on Mr. and Mrs. Gu's faces. In a sudden flash of clarity, I realized I had been reborn. Mrs. Gu gently took my hand, her face beaming with a smile as she said, Auntie knows you've had a crush on Xinian for 10 years. If our 2 families were to unite through marriage, I saw my parents offer an awkward smile. They all knew perfectly well that the Gu family's proposal was nothing more than a desperate move, as they were on the brink of bankruptcy and urgently needed our family's $10 billion capital injection. They just knew I was hopelessly in love with Gu Xinian. They thought, if it meant I could marry him as I wished, it might not be such a bad thing. But now, I wish he were dead. I snapped back to reality and cut her off. I won't marry Gu Xinian. The moment I said that, all eyes in the room snapped toward me. It seemed no one expected that I, who usually followed Gu Xinian around like a lovesick puppy, would actually refuse the marriage proposal. Mrs. Gu looked at me in shock. Yeah. Have you had a falling out with Xinian? Auntie will give him a good talking to when we get home. I shook my head. That won't be necessary. Gu Tingxin paused for a moment. Is this because of Jiang Yanting? Seeing that I remained silent, he sighed. Jiang Yanting is just a student from a poor family that our family sponsors. Xinian was only kind to her out of pity. Don't worry, when I get home, Uncle will have Jiang Yanting sent away. She will never appear in front of Xinian again. In my past life, he said the same thing, but it only earned me Gu Xinian's resentment. He believed I was the one who drove Jiang Yanting away. Because of that, on our very first wedding night, Gu Xinian brought over a dozen of his buddies to torment me the entire night. After I found out, he went even further, locking me in the basement and forcing me to carry the child to term, all just to gamble on whose seat it was. When my parents grew suspicious and came looking for me, Gusinian turned around and showed them the video of my torment that night. With a face full of hatred, he said, "This is the fine daughter you see family raised." She was secretly seeing so many men behind my back. It's disgusting. After watching the video, my parents were utterly heartbroken and both fell gravely ill. Not only did Gusinian show no remorse, but he also brought Jiang Yanting before me and sneered, "Once your parents are dead, I'll take over the C Corporation and give it to Tingting as an apology." My heart turned to ashes, and I died in childbirth. Remembering this, I trembled with rage and blurted out, "Gusinian is not worthy of me marrying him." My words clearly hit a nerve. Gu Tingsen's face fell. Even though the Gu family's situation isn't great right now, he insisted, "If the C family is willing to invest, I can guarantee you won't lose a penny." He wasn't wrong about that. In my past life, after my parents injected 10 billion to bail out the Gu family, their business only went from strength to strength. The C family didn't lift a finger. Yet they pocketed hundreds of millions in dividends for free. "I'm not about to turn down money right now," I said coldly. "I will marry into the Gu family, but not to Gusinian. It will be Gu Huichuan." The room fell silent for a few seconds before Gu Tingsen shot to his feet. "You mean Huichuan? His legs are paralyzed. He can't even stand up." "You can't be serious." Dad quickly chimed in, trying to calm me down. Yeah. Don't do anything rash. I gently patted the back of Dad's hand, signaling for him not to panic. 2. Although Gu Huichuan is Gusinian's uncle, he's only 4 years older. We practically grew up together, so you could say we were childhood friends, but then a car accident left him unable to walk, and he gradually faded from my life. In my past life, when Gusinian had me locked in the basement, he was the first one to find me. He kept shouting, "Don't be afraid," and pounding on the door, and I could clearly see that his legs weren't paralyzed. Later, when Gusinian arrived with his men, they beat him half to death. I remember Gusinian snarling viciously, "Uncle, I hired someone to run you over before. How come it didn't kill you? First, you tried to steal business from my father, and now you're trying to steal my woman. What the hell is wrong with you?" Gu Huichuan didn't even get angry. Instead, he knelt before him and pleaded, "Let Yaya go. I'll do anything you want." Gusinian sneered and slammed his head against the wall, producing a series of sickening thuds. I will never forget what Gu Huichuan said to me. "Yaya, I've been searching for you for so long. So, how could choosing Gu Huichuan possibly be a reckless decision? As for Gusinian, I will make sure he pays the price." My thoughts returned to the present. I looked at the Gu couple and said, "I've made up my mind. I will marry Gu Huichuan." Seeing how firm I was, they didn't press the matter further and nodded in agreement. With that decision made, I felt a wave of relief and decided to go find Gu Huichuan at his bar, but right at the entrance, I spotted Gusinian and Jiang Yanting. When Gusinian saw me, his cheerful expression instantly soured into annoyance. "Siue, why are you so clingy? Do you have to follow me everywhere?" The guy behind him burst out laughing. "Told you she'd show up tonight. I bet if you told her to lick young Master Gu's shoes, she'd drop to her knees in a heartbeat." Hearing this, Gusinian flashed a wicked grin. He gave me a meaningful look and lifted his foot slightly, as if weighing the idea. A wave of disgust washed over me. I coldly stepped around him. "Move." Gusinian froze for a moment before snapping back to reality and grabbing my arm. "Siue, I know all about you using the capital injection to blackmail me into a marriage alliance. What kind of act are you putting on now? You don't actually think playing hard to get will make me look at you twice, do you?" I gave him a cool, dismissive glance and told him the plain truth. "I have no intention of marrying you." Gusinian fell silent for a beat before letting out a scornful, mocking laugh. "No intention? Gu Corporation has already received the 10 billion injection from your father, and you still dare to say there's no intention? Do you have any idea how pathetic you look, begging me to marry you like this?" I nodded. "I know. That's why I won't marry you." Hearing the meaning behind my words clearly this time, Gusinian froze on the spot. It wasn't until Jiang Yanting spoke up softly from the side, "Brother Sinian, I think Siue just doesn't want to see me. If you don't marry her, the Gu Corporation will." "Fine, I'm leaving." Gusinian abruptly let go of my hand, turned, and pulled her into an embrace. "What does she matter? Even if she got her wish and married me, I still wouldn't love her." "Be good, Tingting. We'll go take our wedding photos tomorrow. In my heart, you're the only one who's my wife." The onlookers whistled and cheered, calling out, "Sis-in-law." To Jiang Yanting, Gusinian shot me a smug glance. as if waiting for my reaction. He always used to enjoy seeing me flustered, but now, I felt nothing. Marry whoever you want, I couldn't care less. Just as I was about to walk away, Jiang Yanting blocked my path. Siue, stop pretending. The news about the Si and Gu family's marriage alliance was already reported by the media this afternoon. I can let go of the incident where you hired thugs to humiliate me, but I'm begging you, please be good to brother Sinian from now on. As for that whole business with the thugs, it was all Jiang Yanting's own doing. She staged the whole thing to frame me and play the victim. It's not like I didn't try to clear my name, but Gu Sinian just wouldn't believe me, at this point. I can't even be bothered to explain. Gu Xinyan's expression darkened at the words. Why beg her? A woman who'll stop at nothing to get what she wants is no match for you. With that, he warned me, marrying you is nothing but a transaction of convenience. If I ever find out you bullied Tingting again, I won't let you off the hook. Before he could finish, I looked up and cut him off. Fine, got it, if that's all, I'm leaving. With that, I turned and walked straight into the bar without a backward glance. Sister-in-law, my foot. In a few days, Gu Xinian will have to address me respectfully as aunt. 3. I walked into the bar and headed straight for the private room at the very back. Pushing the door open, I saw Gu Huaichuan sitting there in a wheelchair. His back was to me. Why didn't you choose Xinian? Without a second thought, I leaned down and kissed him. Don't you want to marry me? His Adam's apple bobbed. After a moment, he said in a low voice, I do. The next day, Mrs. Gu sent someone to bring me to the Gu family villa. She said that all brides of the Gu family wore the same wedding dress through the years, and I needed to have my measurements taken. The butler carefully retrieved the wedding dress from the rosewood cabinet, his eyes brimming with delight. If second Master Gu were to see you in this dress, he wouldn't be able to look away. What did you just say? The sudden voice made my heart skip a beat. Gu Xinian had appeared at the top of the stairs at some point, with Jiang Yanting following close behind him, looking at me with a smug expression. Just as the butler was about to speak, I cut in. It's nothing. Gu Xinian stared at me for several seconds before letting out a cold laugh. Don't think that just because you're about to marry me, you can start putting on airs as the young mistress. With that, he snatched the wedding dress from my hands. Let Tingting wear this first. You can have it after she's done. The butler's face paled. Young master, this is the Gu family heirloom wedding gown. It has always been reserved for the Gu family bride. Jiang Yanting suddenly burst into tears. As expected, Siue has her ways. The moment you show up, even a servant dares to speak to me like this. No sooner had the words been spoken than Gu Xinian pointed at the butler and roared, Are you disobeying me now? Take Tingting's measurements first. I took a deep breath. No. My wedding date with Gu Huaichuan was already tight. Who has time for their nonsense now? As I spoke, I reached out to take the wedding dress back. But before my hand could even touch it, Jiang Yanting let out a sharp scream, stumbled backward, and tumbled straight down the stairs. Jiang Yanting lay at the foot of the stairs, blood seeping from a cut on her forehead. Her face was deathly pale as she pointed a trembling finger at me. Why did you push me? Seeing this, Gu Xinian immediately rushed down, scooped her up, and ran out without looking back. Tingting. Jiang Yanting had put on this clumsy act many times before, yet, Gu Xinian fell for it every single time. I sighed and was just about to leave when my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Gu Huaichuan, saying he was waiting for me at our usual spot. My mood instantly lifted, and my steps felt lighter. But just as I stepped out of the Gu family villa's main gate, Gu Xinian, who had turned back, abruptly pulled me into his car. I frowned. What are you doing? I struggled to get out of the car, but he held me down firmly. Tingting is bleeding. You need to give her a blood transfusion. Are you insane? I cried out. That's barely a scratch. It'll heal before we even get to the hospital. Let me out of this car. Seeing me pull out my phone to make a call, he snatched it from my hand and hurled it out the window. Siue, you got what you wanted and married me. Why are you still treating Tingting like this? As the car was about to start moving, I shouted, Gu Xinian, I'm hemophobic and anemic. A blood transfusion could kill me. In response, Gu Xinian let out a scornful laugh. Stop the act. That routine doesn't work on me. We arrived at the Gu family's private hospital in no time. Gu Xinian dragged me straight to the blood transfusion room and barked at the nurse, hurry up and draw it. Take as much as Tingting needs. The moment the needle went in, my whole body shuddered, and my consciousness began to fade. I don't know how much time had passed when I realized I was lying on the floor, utterly weak. I tried to call for a doctor, only to find I was completely alone in the transfusion room. It turned out Gu Xinian had already taken all the medical staff to attend to Jiang Yanting. Just as I thought I was going to die, I suddenly felt a pair of strong arms lift me up. Don't fall asleep, Siyue, stay with me. When I came to, I saw Gu Huichuan, his eyes rimmed red. I'm too late. With that, he took out an exquisite diamond ring and slipped it onto my ring finger. Yeah, marry me. Only then did I realize he had planned to meet me at our old spot this afternoon to propose. He insisted that the ceremony must be held properly. I nodded in agreement. The next second, he made a call, move the wedding up to tonight. I was taken aback. But Jiang Yanting has the wedding dress. Gu Huichuan let out a soft chuckle, his eyes brimming with affection. It's all right. I had everything prepared for you long ago. That evening, I appeared at the hotel, wearing a wedding dress that was one of a kind in the world. Gu Xinian rushed over, his face etched with impatience. It was just a blood transfusion. Was it really necessary to mess with me like this? You're just jealous that I was by Tingting's side, aren't you? Well, I'm back now. Are you happy? The words had barely left his mouth when Gu Huichuan's voice came from behind him. Xinian, is that any way to greet your aunt? Gu Xinian's eyes widened in shock. What aunt? Gu Huichuan stepped past him, pushing the wheelchair directly to my side. Tonight is Yeye's and my wedding. Didn't you know? I looked up with a faint smile. I told him. He just didn't believe me. Gu Xinian froze completely. Impossible. My parents went to the C family estate to arrange a marriage alliance for me. The person you're supposed to marry is clearly me. The butler spoke in a low, somber tone. Young master, the intended match has always been second master. Hearing the butler's words, Gu Xinian was clearly still unconvinced. He straightened his suit, feigning composure as he took my hand. Siyue, stop these childish games. Let's just get through the ceremony. Tingting is waiting for me. I instinctively pulled my hand away. He just gave a cold laugh. Even though tonight is our wedding night, I won't be coming back to you. I promised Tingting I'd be with her. So, don't waste my time. He said the same thing in my past life, but back then, I naively believed that once we were married, he might gradually come to accept me. So after the wedding, I tried every trick in the book to make him stay. Seeing this, Gu Tingson privately arranged for Jiang Yanting to be sent abroad overnight. When he found out, he pretended not to care, but on our wedding night, he blindfolded me with red silk and handed me over to more than a dozen of his brothers. Now, looking at him, I feel nothing but disgust. Seeing this, Gu Huichuan shielded me behind him and said coldly, Xinian, out of respect for you being my nephew, I won't argue with you, but I suggest you show some self-respect. He was about to say more when the butler stepped forward and handed him the invitation. Young master, this invitation has been in your room for some time. You simply haven't returned to see it. Only then did he carefully read the contents of the invitation. A few seconds later, his hand began to tremble slightly, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes before he demanded, Gu Huichuan, are you in on this act with her? Gu Huichuan spoke calmly, after tonight, she will be my wife. Xinian, you need to face reality. Gu Xinian suddenly laughed, a smile tinged with mockery. Siyue, you've been chasing after me for 10 years. How could you possibly be willing to marry someone else, and a paraplegic? No less. I shot back without hesitation. You're wrong. In my eyes, he's a far better man than you. He flew into a rage, instantly grabbing my wrist to drag me out. Seeing this, Gu Huichuan grew frantic and started to rise from his wheelchair. I quickly pulled away from Gu Xinian and gently placed my hands on Gu Huichuan's shoulders. I knew he was faking it, but I also guessed he had a reason for pretending to be paralyzed. I didn't want him to expose himself this early on my account. I turned to look at the banquet hall entrance and said, the guests are all arriving. Gu Xinian, don't embarrass your family. With that, I pushed Gu Huichuan's wheelchair and left. April, Gu Xinian roared behind me. If you turn back now and stop this charade, I can pretend none of this ever happened, but if you don't, once my parents get here, I will call off our engagement. I'll make you the laughingstock of the entire city. I turned a deaf ear and kept walking. After all, the one making a fool of themselves tonight certainly wouldn't be me. Once we were out of Gu Xinian's sight, Gu Huichuan lowered his voice and asked me, you know my leg is fine, don't you? I replied softly, but I also know you must have your reasons. We can talk about it whenever you're ready to tell me. The wedding ceremony officially began, and my father took my arm as we slowly walked down the aisle. Since the wedding had been moved up on such short notice, the Gu couple had only just managed to rush back from out of town. Seeing them arrive, Gusinian breathed a sigh of relief and then stepped up onto the stage. The eyes of all the guests turned toward him in unison. He straightened his sleeves and said with a face full of scorn, "Thank you all for coming tonight, but I'm afraid, our Gu family will absolutely never allow such a vicious, scheming woman to marry into it. I hereby announce that I am breaking off my engagement to Siue." 5. As soon as the words were spoken, the guests below erupted in an uproar. "He's doing what? Calling off the wedding? What on earth is he doing? Is that really his call to make?" Gusinian scanned the room, his gaze finally settling on his parents. "Dad, Mom," he said, "the one I truly love is Tingting. Even though the C family helped us, I can't go against my own heart. I'll pay back every penny I owe them." I watched Gusinian on the stage with a cold stare, a pang of second-hand embarrassment for him beginning to stir inside me. Let's not even mention that he's not the groom tonight. Just consider how my family poured billions to save the Gu family, and all he has to say is a flippant "I'll pay you back someday." Don't you find that kind of talk utterly ridiculous? And to think he had the nerve to humiliate me in front of all those people for Jiang Yanting's sake. He's got a death wish. My father finally caught on, his face instantly turning ashen. What is the Gu family trying to pull here? Gusinian, however, showed no fear. He turned and said coldly to my father, "You resorted to threatening the Gu family with investment just to force Siue to marry me. Don't you find that utterly shameful? I was willing to give Siue another chance, but she's overstepping her bounds and doesn't know what's good for her." As he spoke, he looked towards Gu Huichuan at the side of the stage. "Uncle, at your age, still playing these childish games with Siue, how pathetic." The Gu couple turned pale with fright and rushed onto the stage to pull him back. "Sinian, shut up, get off the stage right now." Just then, a sharp, piercing woman's voice rang out from outside the door. Jiang Yanting burst in, knelt directly before me, and said with tear-filled eyes, "Siue, Sinian and I are truly in love. I'm begging you, don't try to steal him away by any means necessary, please." I looked at her and couldn't help but find the whole thing ridiculous. If they hadn't come to make a scene, after tonight, you could have done whatever you wanted, but now, with all this commotion, it's become a real mess. Gusinian looked at Jiang Yanting in that state, his face filled with heartache. He pointed at me, his tone arrogant. "Fine, you can marry me, but you must accept Tingting living with us. I have to spend at least 5 days a week at her place. If Tingting has a child in the future, that child will split everything equally with yours." As soon as these words were spoken, the room erupted in an uproar, with the elders shouting, "This is preposterous." I felt my father's grip on my hand tighten. He must have finally understood why I didn't choose Gusinian. I looked back at Gusinian and retorted, "What makes you so certain the person I'm marrying is you?" No sooner had the words left my mouth than Gu Huichuan wheeled himself onto the stage. He clapped his hands, and the next moment, the large screen began playing our hastily taken wedding photos, several of which showed us locked in passionate kisses. The guests below the stage whispered among themselves, "Actually, Siue and Gu Huichuan make quite a good match. Who would have thought? She chased Gusinian for 10 years, and now he has to call her aunt." Gusinian pointed at the person in the audience and roared, "What aunt? Didn't I make myself clear enough? They are." Before he could finish, Madame Gu panicked and hurriedly covered his mouth. "Sinian, you want to marry Jiang Yanting, right? I have no objections. Now get out of here." Hearing this, Jiang Yanting smiled triumphantly. Gusinian struggled to keep speaking, but the moment he looked up, he saw the large screen behind him clearly. He froze instantly, as if he had just realized that no one had been lying, pointing at the wedding photos. His face flushed crimson. He stammered, "Siue, when did you betray me? How could you cheat on me?" 6. I couldn't help but laugh at that. "You should really watch what you say. People might get the wrong idea. We were never together. How can you even call it betrayal?" Gusinian's face was a mask of disbelief. He then grabbed Gu Huichuan by the collar and roared, "First, you went after my father's money. Now, you're after my woman. What the hell is wrong with you?" At those words, Gu Tingsan's eyes widened in shock. He slapped his son across the face. "You ungrateful wretch, what kind of nonsense are you spouting? Your uncle never took a single thing from me, and from the very beginning, Siue was always meant to marry your uncle." Gusinian stood frozen in place, momentarily speechless. Gu Huichuan looked at him coldly, apologized to Siue, apologized to the C family. The crowd below began pointing at Gusinian and murmuring, "Isn't the young master of the Gu family getting a bit too arrogant?" Exactly. The C family saved the Gu family. And he dares to treat Miss Siyu like this. Isn't he afraid the Si family will back out of the deal? Hearing this, Gu Tingsun hurriedly explained to my father, Yaya will be my sister-in-law from now on. I absolutely won't let Sinian be so disrespectful. Our discipline was lacking tonight. From now on, the Si family's share of the Gu family's business profits will be increased by another 20%. My father's face was like ice. His gaze sharp as a blade as he stared at Gu Sinian. Seeing this, Gu Tingsun grabbed Gu Sinian's shoulder and forced him to his knees. You ungrateful wretch, apologize to your aunt this instant. Just then, Jiang Yanting suddenly dropped to her knees before me, tears streaming down her face like rain. What does this have to do with Sinian? It's all because Siyue didn't make things clear to him. That's why he misunderstood. Sinian has never suffered a single slight since he was a child. How could he possibly kneel to a woman? I'll apologize on his behalf. The words had barely left her mouth when Madame Gu kicked her to the ground, pointing a trembling finger at her. Madame Gu seethed, if it weren't for you, you little tramp, Siyue would be my daughter-in-law right now. This is all your fault. You seduced my son and addled his brains. Get out of my sight. Jiang Yanting lay on the floor, looking up at Gu Sinian in anguish, only to find him staring blankly at me. His gaze never once falling on her. Panicked, she scrambled on her hands and knees to Gu Sinian's feet, clutching at the hem of his clothes. It's okay, Sinian, I'll marry you. I won't betray you like Siyue did. Gu Sinian violently shook off her hand. No, how could Siyue ever betray me? Jiang Yanting tried to take another step forward. But Madame Gu kicked her again. Starting today, the Gu family won't give you a single cent, and I'll make sure everyone in this industry knows exactly what kind of trash you are. Jiang Yanting's face went deathly pale with fright. She quickly hid herself in Gu Sinian's arms, sobbing, I'll never leave you, Sinian, never. Gu Sinian shoved her out the door. Yan Ting, go get the Gu family wedding gown back. Siyue must have chosen that cripple because she lost the gown. Madame Gu's face instantly turned ashen. That's a family heirloom passed down from our ancestors. How dare you even mention it? Gu Tingsun let out a long sigh and waved a hand at the people behind him. Take him back and make him reflect on his actions. Gu Sinian didn't even have the strength to resist anymore, only muttering to himself, how could this happen? After he was taken away, the wedding ceremony carried on. Holding Gu Huichuan's arm, I went through every step of the ceremony. I heard him whisper in my ear, I've liked you since 10 years ago. When we returned to the Gu family villa, Gu Sinian was sitting at the entrance. When he saw us, his previous wild demeanor vanished. He called out obediently, Auntie, 7. I responded with an impassive ahm-ham and walked straight inside. Gu Tingsun visibly relaxed at the sight. He hurried over to my side and lowered his voice, Yeah, Huichuan. He's been in a terrible state ever since the accident. He only seemed a bit better tonight. I hope you can help him through this. He's my only brother. I can't bear to watch him waste away like this. Back in the room, after some thought, I finally spoke up, Huichuan. Your elder brother doesn't seem to be guarding against you the way people say. He seems genuinely concerned about you. Gu Huichuan was silent for a moment, then looked at me and said, The reason I'm pretending to be paralyzed is that I suspect the person who hit me was Gu Sinian. I didn't tell you before because I was worried you still had feelings for him. I recalled what Gu Sinian had said in my past life and nodded silently. Just then, the door was suddenly pushed open. Gu Sinian walked in holding 2 glasses of wine, a strange smile on his face. Auntie, I've come to apologize. No need, I said coldly, without a second thought. Get out, don't disturb us. He burst out laughing. I called you auntie once, and you actually think you're my elder. Siyue, I never realized you were so desperate, you'd even go for a cripple. Get out, Gu Huichuan warned. Gu Sinian turned to Gu Huichuan, his smile growing even more insolent. Uncle, the Gu family will be mine from now on. If anyone's going to be thrown out, it'll be a useless piece of trash like you. As he spoke, he lunged forward and grabbed my chin. I'm the one who does the dumping. No one dumps me, not even you. He was incredibly strong, and he pinned me down on the table. Seeing this, Gu Huichuan immediately rushed over and yanked him back violently. Gu Sinian crashed heavily to the ground, only to be immediately run over by Gu Huichuan's wheelchair. A piercing shriek tore from his throat. You, Gu Huichuan looked down at him from his superior position. Lay a single finger on my wife, and I'll end you. Gu Sinian scrambled up from the floor and spat. You. What can a cripple like you possibly do? I'm going to have my way with that crazy bitch Siyue right in front of you tonight. Let's see what you can do about it. He raised his foot to kick Gu Huichuan, but to his shock, Gu Huichuan suddenly stood up, seized his ankle, and twisted it backward. Gu Xinian was sent crashing to the ground once more with a heavy thud. He saw Gu Huichuan standing tall and rigid, his face deathly pale. His voice trembling, how can you be standing? That's impossible. Just then, Gu Huichuan's phone vibrated. He glanced at the message and, without a word, scooped me up and headed out. As we passed Gu Xinian, his voice was laced with a bone-chilling coldness. Your time is up. Carried by Gu Huichuan into the living room, I saw Gu Tingson and Mrs. Gu coming down the stairs in their pajamas. What's going on? But when they saw Gu Huichuan standing, their expressions instantly lit up with astonishment and delight. Gu Tingson looked at me in disbelief. Yeah, you truly are a blessing to our Gu family. The moment you arrived, Huichuan recovered. Gu Huichuan, however, remained silent, his gaze fixed coldly on the stairwell entrance. Sensing something was off, Gu Tingson leaned in and whispered to me, "What's going on?" I recounted everything that had just happened in detail. Upon hearing this, Gu Tingson trembled with rage from head to toe. That bastard, I'm going to kill him today. Just then, a man in a black suit hurried over and handed a document folder to Gu Huichuan. Gu Huichuan opened the folder. Inside were printouts of a chat log and a USB drive. Gu Xinian's face turned deathly pale the moment he saw those items. He charged down the stairs, snatched the photocopies, and began tearing them apart frantically. You're slandering me, framing me, just so you can drive me out and seize the Gu family fortune. Isn't that right? Gu Huichuan gave a cold sneer and plugged the USB drive directly into the computer. Soon, Gu Xinian's voice came through the speakers, crystal clear. Ram him. I don't care if you have to kill him. I want Gu Huichuan either dead or crippled. That way he can't fight my dad for the inheritance anymore. Everything will be mine. 8. Gu Tingson's face turned ashen as he listened. He strode towards Gu Xinian and delivered a sharp slap across his face. So it was you. How dare you? Huichuan is my own brother. Everything in the Gu family rightfully belongs to him too. I never once thought he was trying to take anything from me. And he's your uncle, you monster. How could you lay a hand on him? With every word he spoke, he delivered a vicious slap. Gu Xinian's face quickly swelled up like a pig's head, though her heart ached. Madame Gu could only turn her head away, tears streaming uncontrollably down her face. Your behavior this time is truly beyond the pale. Only then did Gu Huichuan speak up. Actually, I never completely lost consciousness that day. I saw the Gu family insignia on the tires of the car that hit me, clear as day, so I'm certain it was someone from our own family. I just didn't know exactly who. That's why I pretended to be paralyzed, to lull the culprit into a false sense of security. I didn't believe it either at first. But then all the evidence started pointing squarely at Gu Xinian. Upon hearing this, Gu Tingson drove his fist into Gu Xinian's face, knocking him flat to the ground. Just then, Jiang Yanting pushed the door open and walked in, holding her wedding dress. Seeing the mess all over the floor and Gu Xinian lying there, she let out a shriek and rushed over like a madwoman. What on earth are you doing? She rushed to Gu Xinian's side. Seeing his face covered in blood, she turned and shouted at Gu Tingson, "Uncle, how could you do this? He's your son, the sole heir of the Gu family." Gu Tingson stood his ground and let out a bitter, cold laugh. The heir? Is he even worthy? He collapsed onto the sofa. He's not my biological son at all. Mrs. Gu could no longer hold back. Covering her face, she sobbed. He's the child of an old friend. He was just a few months old back then. We couldn't bear to see him all alone and helpless, and since I was unable to have children myself, we took him in and raised him as our own. I stared coldly at Gu Xinian, a mocking smile curling at the corner of my lips. So it was all a lie. No wonder you're so obsessed with what you can't have. No, that's not true. Gu Xinian shook his head frantically. You're lying to me. You must be lying. Jiang Yanting stood frozen in place. Even if he's not our biological son. All these years of affection were real. She grabbed Gu Tingson's sleeve. Uncle, please, for the sake of the over 20 years we've lived together, don't make him leave. Okay, get away. Gu Xinian suddenly erupted, shoving Jiang Yanting aside. This is all because of you. If it weren't for you sowing discord back then, how could Cue and I have ended up like this? Get out of here. Get as far away as you can. Jiang Yanting staggered back 2 steps. Her lips pressed into a bloodless line. What about our child? She choked out. Gu Xinian froze mid-motion. The next instant, he lunged at her, pinning her down and raining blow after blow upon her abdomen. This is all your fault, he roared, his voice raw with fury as he struck her. I thought I didn't love Cue, but I was wrong. It wasn't until I saw her about to marry someone else that I realized I could never live without her. This is all your fault, you're the reason I lost Siue. Jiang Yanting pleaded in agony, but Gu Xinian seemed not to hear her, his fists striking with increasing force. Soon, a pool of crimson blood began to spread beneath Jiang Yanting. Gu Xinian stared at the glaring pool of blood before slowly releasing his grip. It's gone, it's over, now get the hell out of here. Everyone was stunned by his actions, and it took them a long moment to snap out of it and think to call the police. When the cops arrived, they immediately handcuffed Gu Xinian and put him in the patrol car. Gu Tingxin took a deep breath and handed the USB drive to the officer. Please investigate the Huichuan car accident as part of this case. After the police took Gu Xinian away, Gu Tingxin slumped into his chair. Looking at Gu Huichuan, he said, to be honest, I saw a long time ago that Xinian would never amount to anything. For years now, I've been considering handing the company over to you. He let out a bitter laugh. Maybe it's for the best. If I couldn't teach him, let the law do it. Several months later, news arrived. Gu Xinian was sentenced to 10 years for attempted murder and intentional assault. Jiang Yanting suffered a mental breakdown after her miscarriage and was committed to a psychiatric hospital. With my father's 10 billion yuan capital injection, the Gu family not only made a miraculous recovery but also reached new heights of success. RC family, naturally, also reaped substantial rewards. It suddenly dawned on me that making a mistake isn't the end of the world. You can always make a different choice. That's all for the first story. Don't go away, because the next one is even more exciting. I was reborn back to the second year of my marriage, the year my husband brought home our adopted son, Xiao Hao, and who came along with him, his first love, Wang Yanan. Before I could even make a fuss, he said to me, your grandfather was a landlord, a bad class background. I married you despite the pressure back then. Consider this you repaying the favor. He used my salary to take her to the doctor, forgetting that I, too, had been coughing up blood at night from pneumonia. He didn't even bat an eye before buying the 28-inch bicycle I'd been going on about for 2 years. The only thing was, sitting on that bicycle were Wang Yanan and her son. I didn't say much. I just quit my job, asked a judge I know to help me with the divorce papers, and then leased a plot of land in the suburbs to start a nursery. What are men worth? In this second chance at life, all I want to do is make money. Lily, come quick and see who's here. I had just gotten off my shift at the hatchery and was dragging my exhausted body home when my husband pulled me into the living room. Auntie Sue, how missed you so much. The child I had sponsored for 2 years threw himself into my arms, nuzzling his face against mine affectionately. Today was supposed to be a wonderful day, celebrating how officially becoming our son, but now, a chill ran down my spine. I pushed how away and turned to the woman sitting at the table to ask, who is she? I actually knew exactly who that woman was. I'd been annoyed by her my entire previous life, and try as I might, I couldn't forget her. Oh, her, she's Hao's mother. Seeing Wang Yanan's awkwardness at the dinner table, Liao Jie gave an embarrassed smile, stepped forward, and put his arm around her shoulder in a gesture that was both intimate and natural. I sneered inwardly, but feigned confusion on my face. But didn't you say 2 years ago that Xiao Hao was an orphan? How did a mother just appear out of thin air? No sooner had the words been spoken than Wang Yanan stood up. It's my fault. Back then, I had no choice. I couldn't raise Xiao Hao, so I had to leave him at the orphanage gate. After all the trouble of saving up some money, it's all been spent on my illness. Me, Liao Jie grew anxious, furrowing his brow as he gently helped her sit down. Lily, you have no idea how much she's suffered all these years. Just let her stay for now, until she finds a job. He was handsome and well-built, standing beside Wang Yanan. His shadow fell across her shoulder, making them look every bit the devoted couple. Watching them, my eyes suddenly stung with tears. In my past life, it was like this, little by little, she just never left. And since Hao was her son, he naturally favored her even more. After he started working, he even bought a small villa and moved Wang Yanan and my husband in. Go live there. My social media feed is constantly filled with their happy family of 3 photos, while I don't even have a child of my own, and I can't get a divorce either, because Liao Jie is afraid that if we divorce and he gets together with Wang Yanan, people will point fingers and call her the other woman. But if we stay married, everyone will just assume their closeness is because of their adopted son, Hao, who serves as a bond between them. Whenever people asked why I never appeared on camera, he would say I was a recluse, that I disliked having my picture taken and seldom went out, and so, the reputation of being jealous and petty has weighed on me for a lifetime. Now, as I listened to Liao Jia defending me, I simply asked, "Darling, are you sure you don't know this Miss Wang?" Liao Jia nodded decisively, but when I pulled out a photo of them as teenagers from under the bed, he suddenly flew into a rage. "Su Lily, you went through my things, how despicable. Then again, considering your background, it's no surprise your character is so low. I must have been blind." With his shame exposed, Liao Jia began hurling incoherent insults. He said my family background was tainted because my grandfather had been a landlord. After he was brought down, my family collapsed and became an object of scorn for everyone around us. Liao Jia's parents were pure, salt-of-the-earth peasants with a clean family history. Originally, they looked down on me, but later, I guess he heard the news that his first love had gotten married. Stung by this, he actually threatened to kill himself to force his parents to agree to our marriage. Even though many people were bad-mouthing him behind his back, he still threw a lavish wedding banquet with several tables on our big day. He said, "Don't worry, Lily, your husband will make sure you have a grand occasion. I'll always protect you." But now, the man who promised to protect me is the one stabbing me in the heart, all because I exposed his lie. My heart was bleeding, yet I forced a smile and pretended everything was fine. With Wang Yanan watching, I had no choice but to desperately cling to that pathetic pride of mine. "Su Lily, speaking of the past," Liao Jia paused, as if remembering something, and looked up at me. "Back then, I married you despite the pressure because of your bad background. Now, consider it as you returning the favor. Let Yanan stay." Hearing this absurd statement, I couldn't help but let out a short laugh. We're husband and wife, family, and yet here he is, trying to collect on a debt. He didn't even call her his wife anymore, just addressed her directly as Su Lily, all because he was afraid I'd give his first love a hard time. "Fine, then, she can stay." I nodded and turned to leave. "It's just, there's no place for me in this home anymore." Liao Jia didn't follow. From behind, the sounds of chairs scraping and dishes clattering even began to rise. "It's fine, let's eat first," he said to the mother and son. His tone casual and light. I saw his true colors clearly in my past life. So why can't I stop the tears now? Perhaps it's because this body is my younger self, still harboring a deep affection for Liao Jia. With no money on me and no way to afford a hotel, the only place I could think of was my old home in the mountains, 30 kilometers away. Grandma is there. By the light of the moon, I gritted my teeth and walked for half the night, finally arriving back at my hometown at the first crow of the rooster. It was the dead of night. Yet a light was still on in Grandma's room. She was even sitting alone in the courtyard, lost in thought. Seeing my disheveled state, Grandma burst into tears. She said, "My dear Lily, that Liao Jia is a real piece of work." I was still wearing the thin, dark blue work uniform from the factory, with yellow-black dust caked in my nostrils and around the corners of my mouth. My grandmother was heartbroken. She heated water for me to bathe and warmed up a meal, watching me wolf down the food. She couldn't stop sighing. "I told you, that boy isn't good enough for you." With my high school diploma, I could have landed a decent job at the department store, but Liao Jia worked at a power plant far away, and he found it inconvenient. So, he got me a job at a chemical plant near our home instead. The air there was foul, with stench billowing year-round from the giant smokestacks and dust everywhere. I came home covered in grime every single day, yet for Liao Jia's sake, I stuck with that miserable job for 30 long years. Now, I held my grandmother, comforting her. "It's alright, Grandma, I'll take care of this person and this job soon, I promise." After spending just one day back home, I had to return to work at the factory. Liao Jia didn't come to pick me up. It was Grandma who drove the ox cart to see me down the mountain. When I left the village, a lot of people made snide remarks. "Oh, so you married well and you're still acting up, what a princess. Who do you think you are? Poor Liao Jia, what bad luck to end up with a wife like you." Grandma turned back, patted my hand, then spun around and lashed out at those people with her whip. "Shoo, get away. What kind of filthy scum dares to crowd around my Lily?" The men cursed and grumbled, but they couldn't stand the sting of Grandma's whip and soon ran off into the distance. "Lily, that Liao Jia is no good. He's always been a nasty piece of work. If you're set on getting a divorce, your grandma knows Judge Zhang in the city. I can have him draw up the divorce papers for you." In her day, Grandma was a lady of good standing, even though she's herding sheep back in the old hometown now. The social connections our family has built up over the generations are more than enough to help me get through this current trouble. She dropped me off at the gate of the Jiehua factory, then clattered off in her ox cart, swaying gently as she headed back toward the city. I wiped my tears and turned to walk into the factory. When I got home from work that evening, I saw a new set of bowls and chopsticks on the table. Wang Yanan had bought them, and my husband kept praising her good taste. I'm so tired of looking at the old dishes. It's nice to have something new. He packed up the old bowls and chopsticks, stuffed them into a box, and carried it outside. Every day, scrap collectors pass by our door. And these old bowls and chopsticks are the ones I bought the year we got married. Oh yeah, this afternoon, an old lady on an ox cart came to our door yelling. I threw a basin of foot-washing water on her. Ha ha ha, she was a riot. How was sitting in the chair, swinging his legs and bragging. The moment I heard him, I didn't hesitate. I went right up and slapped him. Wah, Auntie Sue. The child was terrified by me. Covering their face as they stood up, Wang Yanan rushed over and hugged the child. Weeping with nothing but hurt and grievance. Lily, don't panic. Liao Jia tried to stop it, but he was a second too late. He stood up, filled with regret, and began to explain. Maybe it wasn't Grandma. I ignored Liao Jia, fighting to steady my trembling body as I stared at Hao and asked, what was that old woman wearing? Hao replied timidly, just a black coat with holes in it. Hearing this, my heart ached so much that I burst into tears. So Grandma really had come here. I couldn't even bear to imagine how she had come to the door, ready to stand up for me, only to have this kid pour cold water all over her intentions. Continuation of ID. 3. It was so cold that night. How did she even make it home, soaked to the bone like that? The thought of it was like a knife twisting in my heart. I wanted to rush out, but Liao Jia held me back. Lily, don't panic. At this hour, Grandma is definitely already home. You have work tomorrow. Just calm down. He tried hard to talk me down, and even that Wang Yanan had to join in. That's right, Lily, your grandma will be fine. Hearing that, I looked at her. This afternoon, it was just you and your son at home. Why couldn't you keep him under control then? Wang Yanan flushed, biting her lip in silence. Who told that old woman to insult my mom? She had it coming, Hao retorted loudly, and even Liao Jia was on their side. You know, Lily, you're partly to blame for this too. If you hadn't gone and tattled to Grandma, Hao wouldn't have. I yanked my hand away from his. Get lost. I rushed up to Hao, grabbed him by the collar, and spoke with deliberate, measured force. Just answer me this. For the past 2 years, haven't I brought you loads of food every single time I visited the orphanage? All your winter clothes, your summer clothes, even the coat you're wearing right now. I bought them with my salary. How dare you use my things, and not feel the slightest bit sorry for what you did to my grandmother? Wang Yanan wiped her tears and tried to pry my hand away, but couldn't. Her lips quivered. I turned to look at her. Don't you dare put on an act for me here. Your son was as timid as a mouse back in the orphanage. He wouldn't have dared to splash water on an old woman like that. Wasn't it you who taught him to do this? I knew her game. She deliberately had her son provoke me at the dinner table. Fine. I released her with a shove and, under Liao Jia's stunned gaze, flipped the entire table over. You got your wish. No one's having a peaceful night tonight. The sound of shattering dishes was followed by food spilling everywhere. Leaving the room in complete disarray, Lily, Liao Jia was at his breaking point. We haven't even had dinner yet. What's gotten into you? The scalding soup splashed onto my arm, leaving an angry red patch. When he saw it, his gaze softened again. Lily, don't be like this, okay? He reached out to hug me as he always did, but I dodged his embrace. Things have gone far enough. I think it's time I said what needs to be said. Liao Jia, let's get a divorce. I don't want to be with you anymore. Liao Jia paused, not quite processing what he'd just heard. After all, in his view, I should have been grateful to marry into a respectable family like his. Lily, I'm sorry. It was my fault for not picking you up from your grandmother's this morning. He pulled a silver bracelet from his pocket and slipped it onto my wrist. This was the promise he made during the new year, back when he said, I'm saving up to buy Lily a bracelet. I can't afford much right now, so silver will have to do. Someday I'll buy Lily a gold bracelet. Now, with the bracelet weighing heavily on my wrist, I felt utterly wretched, as if my skin might blister from its touch. Tears welled up unbidden. I quickly slipped the bracelet off and handed it back to him, freeing my hands to wipe my eyes. Didn't you hear me? My voice choked as I tried to speak again, but a sudden tightness gripped my chest. I coughed twice, and to my horror, blood came up. Lily. My head was spinning in waves as he helped me lie down on the bed. This pneumonia just keeps coming back. Frowning, He deftly brought over the spittoon for me and gently stroked my hair. Lily, I was wrong before. No sooner had the words been spoken than Xiaohao's wailing echoed from the living room. Mom, what's wrong? Liao Jia, who was beside her, instantly rushed out. When I woke up the next morning, there was medicine and a glass of water on the bedside table. The house was empty, and the living room was still a mess. Liao Jia had also left me a note. He said that Wang Yanan needed to be hospitalized for treatment due to severe tinnitus. The textile mill where Yanan used to work was filthy and exhausting. Just look at her rough hands and weary expression, and you'll understand how hard her life has been. Also, I didn't have enough money, so I came back to take your wages from the last 2 months. Just keep wearing the bracelet. I promised I'd buy it for you. I watched, unable to suppress a bitter smile. Every word, between the lines, was filled with pity for Wang Yanan. Use my salary to pay for her treatment. I can't even bring myself to spend money on treating my own lung condition, saving up just to live a slightly better life. So he just took it, fresh and ready, and gave it to someone else to use. Liao Jia, have you forgotten? I got this pneumonia from working at the fertilizer plant. After resting for a long while, I got up, tidied the living room, and then headed in the direction of the fertilizer plant. It's already high noon. I'm definitely going to get an earful from the foreman again, but it's fine. I was going there to resign. After handing in my resignation, I went into the city again. When I went home in the afternoon, I brought Judge Zhang with me. Liao Jia was in the kitchen cooking with Xiaohao. When he saw me come in, the first thing he asked about wasn't my health. Did you leave work early today? He frowned. What about the impact on your pay? We desperately need the money this month and next. I couldn't be bothered to answer him and just coughed into my hand. Lily, I'm sorry. Are you feeling any better? Coming to his senses, he helped me sit down. It was then that he noticed Judge Zhang behind him. Who is this? He asked. He didn't stand up until Judge Zhang told her about my intention to divorce. As if he had just heard the most absurd joke. That's impossible. Divorce. What kind of notion is that? Besides, Lily and I have only been married for 2 years. We're perfectly happy. Why on earth would we get a divorce? Uncle Zhang looked at me, then turned to question him. But this is your wife's wish. Do you really not care at all? Liao Jia was stunned for a moment, then quickly dismissed him. Enough of this nonsense. As long as I refuse to sign, no one can make us get a divorce. Uncle Zhang adjusted his glasses. I'm here today to investigate, to check on the state of your marital relationship, and to ask your respective workplaces about you. He asked about my character and inquired with the neighbors about how you've been. Anyway, if my investigation confirms that what your wife said is true, you might want to consider signing the papers. After Uncle Zhang left, Liao Jia looked at him as if he were crazy and didn't take it seriously. Lily, for the time being, I might need you to come home a bit quicker after work to make dinner. I'm going to take care of Yanan. Keep the meals light when you cook. The doctor said she can't have anything spicy. He didn't finish his sentence. I responded flatly. I quit my job. Liao Jia was furious, because the burden of supporting the family now fell on his shoulders alone. But thinking of our family's current situation, he gritted his teeth and tried to placate me. Fine, I'll earn the money. That works out. You can handle the cooking and look after Xiaohao. He needs to get ready for school. I shook my head and looked up at him. You'll have to sort out your own meals. I won't take care of Xiaohao either. And I won't touch a single cent of your money. Liao Jia was stunned. Then what are you going to do? I said slowly. I'm going to start a business. I need to make money. And then, leave you. Liao Jia suddenly laughed, then began to criticize. You're just speculating and shirking your real duties, I retorted. Don't you know that a lot of people are doing business down in the southeastern coastal areas now? Seeing the stunned look on his face, it dawned on me. Right, he had no idea. To him now, the city was vast, the provincial capital was a distant and bustling place, and beyond that lay a world unknown. But I was different. I possessed memories from decades in the future. The country is now pushing hard for urban development, creating a huge demand for landscaping. New plants need to be transplanted along roadsides and in parks. Therefore, given my current capabilities, the way for me to make money is to lease a plot of land and start a nursery. After all, in 4 years' time, the provincial capital Kunming will host a grand world horticultural exposition. If I start now and things go smoothly, by 1999, I'll be able to use the expo as a platform to grow and strengthen my nursery business. Liao Jia didn't have time to dwell on my words. He was busy every day with work and then taking care of Wang Yanan after his shift. As for Xiaohao's meals, they were entrusted to the hospital cafeteria. I went back to my hometown and explained the situation to my grandmother. She was very supportive of my divorce. When she heard I planned to start a business, she sold off all the family's cattle and sheep in one go. She even gave away the land and the old family home. All that money added up to a surprisingly substantial sum. Grandma shoved it all into my hands at once, scratching her head as she spoke. Grandma can finally put down this burden. From now on, whatever Lily does, Grandma will help her do it. Grandma and I found a plot of land in the suburbs. Since winter was approaching, the owner agreed to lease it to me right away when they heard I wanted to rent it. Grandma and I spent some money on bricks and built a small house on that land. Our food, clothing, shelter, and transportation for the next few years all depend on that place. Later, we went to buy plastic sheeting and also carried back a lot of bamboo poles, each about 3 or 4 meters long. These are what I plan to use for greenhouse seedling cultivation. The soil in the field has been tilled, and with a river right nearby, irrigation won't be a problem. All these scattered tasks ended up taking us a full month. Next up was selecting the tree seedling varieties. There were 2 methods available, using seeds or cuttings. As luck would have it, a former classmate of mine worked for the municipal bureau. He's the one in charge of this area. I planned to ask that friend to borrow some seeds and cuttings. Before that, as money was running low, I went back home, never expecting to witness that scene. On the day I returned home, it was snowing, a rare occurrence. The house was filled with lively chatter, and it sounded wonderfully warm and cozy. It seems Wang Yanan has been discharged from the hospital. I pushed the door open against the wind and snow, and the icy air swept through, dispelling the warmth inside. Wang Yanan was nestled in Liao Jia's arms, watching her son bounce around with a look of pure contentment, and there, on her wrist, was the very bracelet Liao Jia had once given me. Before leaving home, I slipped the bracelet under my pillow. Somehow, she ended up wearing it. Maybe the bracelet was a bit too glaring. I rubbed my eyes. Feeling a sudden dryness, Liao Jia immediately let go and backed away from Wang Yanan. Then, he came over and took my hand. "Lily, you're back so late, you must be freezing." I ignored him, sidestepped past, disregarding the disappointment on his face, and walked into the room. "Lily, you're never around this month. What have you been up to?" He followed me in, closed the door, and wrapped his arms around me from behind. I put the rest of my money into an envelope, tucked it into my coat, and then pushed him away. "What are you doing?" He had clearly seen my actions, and his expression grew tense. "Lily, are you really leaving me?" Liao Jia's voice trembled. "Sue Lily, all for that business plan of yours." I shook my head. "Our relationship is over. I don't need you anymore, Liao Jia." With that, I walked out of the room, only to be grabbed by him outside. "Our relationship is over." He looked furious. "Sue Lily, have you forgotten? Who was it that married you without caring about your background? What did you promise back then? You said you'd be with me forever." His tone intensified, startling Wang Yanan and her son. "Here we go again. Give it a rest, will you?" I frowned, pulling my arm free, and rubbed my sore wrist before looking up at him. "That's right, I'm the one who changed first. Happy now. It's me who's ungrateful, me who has no class. I admit it all. Fine. I'll just take my uncouth self and leave, if that's all right with you." With that, I pulled open the outer door. Liao Jia gritted his teeth and called out to stop me again. This time, his tone was calm. "Before you go, explain the burn on Xiaohao's arm." He lifted Xiaohao's wrist, pulled back the bandage to show me, revealing a patch of scalded skin. "Sue Lily, you knew perfectly well I didn't have time to look after Xiaohao. Why didn't you help him prepare the charcoal for warmth?" In those days, the only way to keep warm at school in winter was to bring your own pre-burned charcoal. It was carried in a discarded tin can about the width of a palm, with wire threaded through both sides to serve as a handle, and brought to school. During class, you could place that simple little stove under your legs to keep warm, and Xiaohao, because there was no one at home, had to make this little stove himself, which is how he burned his arm. But, I frowned, looking at him helplessly. "What the hell does your first love's son getting hurt have to do with me?" Liao Jia sneered coldly and tightened his grip on my hand once more. "Of course it does. You're his adoptive mother. His injury is absolutely your concern." I let out a bitter laugh. "And what about you, the adoptive father? Your mind's never on the boy. Don't you have any responsibility, and you call yourself his mother?" I turned to Wang Yanan. "He's your own flesh and blood. Did your ear surgery sever your hands or render you mute? While you were in the hospital, couldn't you have bothered to ask how your own son was doing?" Oh, I see. I looked at her mockingly. All your energy is spent on seducing my husband. As for your son, you've already abandoned him once, so what's to stop you from doing it a second time? My words drained the color from both their faces. It was clear that Xiao Hao had silently glanced at his mother, and an inevitable rift had formed between them. Su Lily, stop interrupting. Liao Jia pulled my attention back. Today, you either give a proper explanation before you leave, or you hand over every last cent in your pocket to Xiao Hao, as compensation for his medical bills. I frowned. I still needed that money to buy seedlings and to treat people to meals. So you're too stingy to pay up, is that it? Liao Jia let out a sigh of relief, then whispered in my ear with a hint of madness, if you don't pay, you're not going anywhere, you're staying right here with me. I looked up at him. The way he was acting now reminded me of his old, stubborn insistence that he'd marry no one but me. Could it be that Liao Jia would ever be reluctant to let me go? But now, all I want is to leave as soon as possible and get on with my own life. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Wang Yanan, who had been watching from the side, hurried to answer it, as if sensing something. Liao Jia shouted from behind, Yanan, don't open the door. But then, the door opened, in stepped Uncle Zhang, the judge, covered in snow. I'm here today to handle your divorce proceedings. He pulled a copy of the civil mediation document from his coat and slowly turned his gaze to Liao Jia. I was just outside. And I could have sworn I heard you say something like, no money, no leaving. Is that blackmail or a threat? His gaze was scrutinizing. Liao Jia's lips went pale, then he quickly shook his head and let go of me. That's not true at all, Your Honor. It was only when Uncle Zhang produced the document that he finally believed it, turning to look at me with a gaze full of disbelief. Su Lily, are you really asking me for a divorce? Judge Zhang let out a cold laugh and motioned for us to sit down. I've looked into the matter. Neither of your workplaces is very familiar with your domestic affairs, but the current assessment of your characters, the price is actually quite reasonable. Your neighbors confirmed it. Wang Yanan was indeed your first love, and you were the one who brought her back. Because of her and her son, you and Su Lily argued constantly. Your relationship was genuinely broken. I've even been to Xiaoha's school, and the hospital where Wang Yanan had her surgery. Liao Jia's head sank lower and lower with each word, until he finally cut off Judge Zhang. Judge Zhang stared at him and asked, Liao Jia, is it true that your relationship with your wife, Su Lily, has broken down? Is it true that during your marriage, you fell in love with your first love and brought her home? The room was utterly silent, save for the howling wind outside. Judge Zhang's voice was stern. Liao Jia gave me one last, reluctant look before finally nodding in admission. There were indeed conflicts, but that was all a moment of foolishness on my part. Judge Zhang shook his head, clenching his teeth. Liao Jia picked up the pen and signed his name on the mediation agreement. After he signed it, I held the divorce papers in my hands, unable to process what had just happened for a long time. Am I really divorced? Fantastic. Overwhelmed with joy, I couldn't help but smile and turned to look at Liao Jia. Did my smile wound him? For the rest of the afternoon, Judge Zhang stayed in the room, helping us divide the marital property. Everything, from the large wardrobes, tables, and chairs down to the pots, pans, and dishes, was split right down the middle. Liao Jia leaned against the doorframe of our room, looking unsteady on his feet, as if he was coming apart at the seams. Outside, dusk was falling. The streetlights flickered on, casting a warm, golden glow over the world. I was so excited that I paid a guy to help me tie all the sorted furniture onto the ox cart. I plan to move all my things back to the nursery tonight. Grandma is still waiting for me to come home. Judge Zhang has also gone back, with systems still being underdeveloped in many areas. A judge like him has to run around personally investigating all sorts of disputes. Lily, just as I was about to leave, Liao Jia called out to me. I turned around, and he suddenly seemed to stumble over his words. Dinner's ready inside. Maybe you could stay and eat with us before you go. He gestured towards the dining table behind him, where Wang Yanan and her son were sitting. For a fleeting moment, it felt as if I had been transported back to my past life. Every time I drove Liao Jia to the little villa reserved for the three of them, he would always call out and ask me to stay for dinner. Back then, I would look past his shoulder at that mother and son, their faces wearing identical expressions of guarded resistance. Now, having lived a second life, I don't even need to look to know the expression on their faces. How ridiculous, fighting over a single man. Do they really think he's some kind of treasure? Just as I had countless times in my past life, I turned Liao Jia down. No, thank you. My grandmother is waiting for me to come home for dinner. Well. The snow is so heavy outside, maybe you should stay the night. He stammered out the question. I turned and gave him a cool, indifferent glance. It was like dousing him with a bucket of cold water, and he fell silent. Liao Jia finally realized it. We were already divorced. That night, after dinner with Grandma, we moved all the furniture down in one go. We worked well past midnight, then pulled out some bedding, laid a couple of planks across, and made do. Before we turned in, Grandma stroked my head and sighed. My sweet Lily has grown up. It warms my heart, dear. Whatever you do, my sweet Lily, I'll always support you and be by your side. The next day, Grandma walked with me through knee-deep snow to ask an old classmate who worked at the city council for some saplings. That winter, Grandma and I spent every single day in the greenhouse. We moved in a lot of young seedlings, scattered seeds, and brought in some cuttings ready for propagation. During that time, Liao Jia came by once. Riding the old-fashioned 28-inch bicycle I'd been going on about not buying for over 2 years, on the bicycle's rear seat sat Wang Yanan and her son. They were standing on the high ridge of the field. My grandmother and I stepped out of the greenhouse and squinted at them from the snowy ground. Liao Jia just stood there for some reason, silent and staring in our direction, like a block of wood seething with resentment. In contrast, Wang Yanan and her son were laughing and playing nearby. Once they tired themselves out, they stood next to Liao Jia, watching my grandmother and me. That silver bracelet was still on Wang Yanan's wrist, looking even more glaring against the snow. The thought of her wearing something that was once mine turns my stomach. Grandma saw right through me and yelled out a scolding. What are you doing? Flaunting that cheap bracelet. This old woman has seen all the fine gold and jade there is to see. Disgusting. Liao Jia jolted awake and glanced back at Wang Yanan. Later, they left. For months, as the bitter wind howled, my grandmother and I persevered. Finally, as spring arrived, the seeds sprouted and the cuttings began to put forth green leaves. Even before this, in the greenhouse next door, my grandmother and I had been tending dozens of pots of winter jasmine and red azaleas. Their plump buds tightly closed, poised to burst into bloom. Our classmate from the municipal bureau reached out to us proactively, saying the city has a stretch of road that needs forsythia and azaleas. Our timing couldn't be better. Hey, Grandma and I were over the moon. That day, my classmate brought people over to take our flowers, and we happily helped them load up all morning. This is our first deal, and the profit far exceeds what I earn in several months. My grandmother took my hand and instructed me, don't spend this money on food or drink, we're going to buy flower seedlings. I nodded, stuffed the money into my pocket, and when I looked up, I saw Liao Jia on the distant ridge of the field. This time, he was riding a bicycle and didn't have Wang Yanan and her child with him. He took the initiative to come over and start a conversation with me. I've already told Yanan to take off the bracelet, he said flatly. Even though we had been husband and wife for 2 years, he was uncharacteristically nervous facing me. Seeing him try to shove the bracelet into my hands, I quickly stepped back. Don't, it disgusts me, I said with disgust, finally venting the pent-up resentment in my heart. Don't worry, I had someone clean it, the bracelet is spotless, or I could buy you a new bracelet, he pleaded urgently, trying to prove his point. Lily, she put that bracelet on herself, I didn't even notice. I gave a short laugh. And how exactly did she know the bracelet was under my pillow? Did she search the bed, or roll around on it? Liao Jia's face flushed with embarrassment, and he fell silent. I shot him a disdainful look and said slowly, don't bother buying me a silver bracelet, because now, I can afford a gold one myself. Liao Jia seemed quite shaken by it. For a long time after that, he never showed up by the field ridges again. Time flew by. In the first year, Grandma and I managed to break even. The following year, we leased another plot of land in the suburbs, which became our second nursery. At the same time, the majority of the city's landscaping projects were supplied by our 2 nurseries. Grandma and I couldn't handle all the work ourselves, so we hired 4 or 5 people to help out. In the 3rd year, I bought Grandma a lovely little house in the city. She was getting on in years, and her health wasn't as good as it had been the previous couple of years, but Grandma wasn't having it. She brandished her cane and threatened to give me a whack. She said, don't think your grandma is too old. I can do anything with my good little Lily. I choked up, nodding vigorously, and from then on, I never again told Grandma to go and rest by herself. I heard that Liao Jia was laid off from the power plant that year, so he went to work at the fertilizer plant where I used to work. Every weekend after work, he would ride that old 28-inch bicycle to the nursery in the suburbs to see me. He remained standing there on the distant ridge. The trees in the nursery had grown taller than me. Not wanting to see him, I deliberately stooped as I walked, hiding myself among the thicket, and so, Liao Jia stood there frowning until dusk fell, before finally hanging his head and turning back. The fourth year, 1999, finally arrived. And the provincial capital's International Horticultural Exposition was at last about to open. I've spent 3 years preparing for this exhibition, and now, my heart is simply brimming with excitement. The day before I was set to leave for the provincial capital, after buying my grandmother some new clothes, Liao Jia found me. At the time, Grandma and I were living in a small Western-style house. I don't know how he found us, but there he was, standing silently outside the courtyard, faintly. A few coughs could be heard. I walked over and asked him what was wrong. To my surprise, he started crying. "Lily, it's been 3 years since the divorce. Do you still hate me?" Liao Jia's voice didn't have the same vigor it used to, and he seemed to have shrunk a little in stature. He was still wearing the blue work uniform from the hatchery, but his face was clean, with a few droplets of water on it. He must have freshened up specifically to see me. I washed my face on the way. I didn't answer him, as there was no need. Now, I feel neither hatred nor love for him. He's like air to me, leaving my heart completely undisturbed. When I didn't respond, he covered his mouth and coughed again, then opened his hand to reveal flecks of blood. "Lily, just like you, I've been in the processing plant too long. I've got pneumonia." "Has your pneumonia cleared up?" he asked softly. I replied, "All better now. The second year I started earning money. Grandma took me to the hospital and got it fixed." Liao Jia nodded, then turned and patted the frame of his old bicycle. "Lily, I just realized, the road from the fertilizer plant back home is so rough, the gravel is sharp, it really hurts to walk on. No wonder. During those first 2 years of our marriage, you kept pestering me to buy you a bicycle. We finally managed to save a little money, and it all went on my medical bills. I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, Lily." Back then, when I said your family background was problematic, those words hurt you. The truth is, it wasn't that I looked down on you. I felt inferior. You have a higher education, you're clever, and now you've even shown you have a real head for business, making money. Actually, when I married you before, it wasn't just out of spite. I really did like you." Seeing that I wasn't speaking, he coughed and reached his hand through the railing to touch me. "Lily, are you listening?" My mind was already miles away at tomorrow's exhibition, so I just nodded absently. "I sent Wang Yanan and her son away. After taking them to see you, I gave her a piece of my mind. When I heard what Grandma said and saw the look on your face, it really got to me. Suddenly, I just started to resent Wang Yanan. He spoke with such deep feeling, but I suddenly let out a laugh." Liao Jia was momentarily stunned, and I met his gaze. "What's the point of saying all this now? Who are you putting on this heartfelt act for?" "Liao Jia, at your core, you're a greedy person. You know perfectly well in your heart, you know my grievances and what bothers me, you know Wang Yanan's tactics, but you're addicted to it, aren't you? Because no matter how we fight, you're always the one who benefits. But now, the balance between us is broken, with only Wang Yanan by your side. You're just picking which of us is better. People only start using their thick skulls after they've lost something. But so what?" I glanced at him indifferently. "Someone like you deserves to live in regret forever. Liao Jia, go live your miserable life and stay out of mine." That night, Liao Jia crouched by the fence for a long, long time. It wasn't until the early hours of the next morning, when it was time for his shift at the hatchery, that he finally pushed his bicycle and left, open. Meanwhile, I had already enjoyed a good night's sleep, put on my makeup, changed into the outfit I'd bought with my grandmother, and set off with her on the train to the provincial capital. The expo has begun, and I'm feeling confident. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.